What is up? Hopefully you guys are having a wonderful day. Back here with some more RE4 Remake gameplay for you. And today I'm going to be talking about one of my big problems that I'm getting really annoyed with in terms of recent release movies in the past year or so. I originally was going to just make this into a FantasticFour review, which I just recently saw. And if you want my quick review of it, I highly enjoyed it. I think it's by far the best FantasticFour movie. I think it's well casted, has a lot of intense sequences. I love the world that the group is in, how the world kind of loves them. So I highly do recommend watching it. However, it does have one problem. And it's a very recurring problem. It's a reason why I'm doing this video instead of just a review on the FantasticFour, because this problem seems to come back, and it's just kind of like turning into clockwork now, where it seems like every time I go to the theater, this happens to me. Now, this problem doesn't ruin the movie, FantasticFour, for me. I highly enjoy it. I highly recommend it. But it is my biggest problem I had with this film. But what makes it ironic is it's a problem which happened to the last movie I saw in the theaters, which I reviewed earlier this month, which was Superman. Another movie I highly enjoy, highly recommend. And my biggest problem with that was the same exact problem I had with the FantasticFour movie. And if you want to go back even further, the last movie I saw before Superman in the theaters, I don't really go to the theaters too much, was Alien Romulus. Another movie I highly, deeply enjoyed. But it also had the same exact problem as Superman and FantasticFour in terms of my biggest problem I have with the film. So we got three films I deeply enjoyed, and all three have the same biggest problem with the whole film for me personally. So you're probably wondering, what do all three have in common? Well, this. After watching all three of them and enjoying all three of them, I had the same feeling of this. I wish all three of them were just a little bit longer. I don't know what it is nowadays, and I blame a lot of movie studios for this, but it's like nowadays you'll watch a film and you'll like it, and you're just like, man, if it just had 10, 15 minutes of extra time, it would have turned an excellent movie into an even better movie. And it wouldn't even take that much, you know. So I'll go over the examples personally. Take Alien Romulus. That was a movie I highly enjoyed. But I feel like if you gave 10 to 15 minutes, and I know exactly where they could have added this time easily, and that would have been towards the beginning of the movie. And I feel like that could have been used to add more towards the other cast members. I feel like the biggest problem a lot of people had is outside of maybe the main two or some characters, most people didn't really care about the other people. So if you gave that extra 10, 15 minutes towards those characters, I feel like you would got a lot more enjoyability out of it. You know, because that's one of the things I think are so underrated about the first two Alien movies is the cast outside of the main character, is that those cast members, even the ones that die pretty early on, they're very memorable. They're not characters that you necessarily want to see die and you feel bad for them, but it's because you had that time to be around them and they well acted and played their parts really well, but you highly remember them, especially the Marines. I think they're so underrated, a lot of those Marines. You know, you always talk about the famous ones, but even the ones that aren't there for too long, I feel like they're very memorable. And I feel like if Romulus had that extra 10, 15 minutes, it would have made that film a lot better. And it doesn't help the fact that it's also a movie that's under 2 hours. FantasticFour was also under 2 hours. Superman was a little bit longer. I think I looked online, was 2 hours, 18 minutes. So at least it had a little bit over 2 hours, but I still think that one could use a little bit more time. But this whole under 2 hours thing, I'm just not a big fan of. I don't know why they keep having movies being mandated to be under 2 hours, and you cut sequences, because I heard, for irony's sake, the FantasticFour movie was originally supposed to be 2 hours and 14, 15 minutes. So at least 15 minutes of the movie was cut out. It just makes me think, man, if that was in there, it could have made the experience so much better. But let's go on to Superman. I feel like the time used for that could have been used to flesh out more like the Justice Gang. They're obviously characters that are going to be used more often than not. And I feel like we can learn a little bit more about them. You know, Guy Gardner, Hawk Girl, Mr. Terrific. Maybe even had some more scenes with Metamorpho and stuff. And I feel like that would have made the movie so much better. Maybe even learn more about the villains, you know, Lex, Ultraman, the Engineer, stuff like that. Or they could just use more for like Superman, or maybe have another scene with his parents or something like that. But I'd probably more use that extra time to flesh out the Justice King, but it just would have made the experience so much better. And then when you get to Fantastic Four, without spoiling it, I just feel like the biggest time they could have used for this movie, I think, was for the end part with the Silver Surfer, because Silver Surfer's in the movie a decent amount of time, but from the last time she talks to Johnny when she's flying away, giving them the demands, and then the last time you actually see her, I feel like there should have been at least a scene or two between then, and she should have had a lot more of a bigger role in the final actual clash they had with Galactus. You know, this is me personally. That's where I feel like a lot of the scenes could have been used there. Maybe could have another moment. I know there was a scene in a trailer where it seemed like I didn't remember seeing a movie where people were bringing up that Sue was talking to the Thing, just those two, so they could have had that. But it ultimately comes to the point where I don't know why they keep having these movies made shorter, under 2 hours. Even the one that does go over 2 hours, I still feel like they could have had the extra time. But I know a lot of people might argue, well, what if the movie's not very good and it's a longer movie? I would rather deal with that than just have a shorter movie and then be like, man, they could have added this, and they didn't. And maybe you'll see these added things more for like Superman and Fantastic Four if we get like another version of it, like director's cut, if it comes on demand or any type of physical media release or something like that. So maybe we can see that. But it's just like, I'd rather it be longer and take a chance and maybe not be as good, or just not be shorter and just be like, man, it could add up. Because I think that's the frustrating part for me, is that when you have these movies shorter and you wish you could add more time with them, it's a little bit frustrating. Because once again, I enjoyed all three of these films, but they all have the same problem. They're just a little bit longer. So, note to movie people making movies, big companies and stuff like that, stop putting your movies under 2 hours. And yes, I'm fully aware you can have an extra movie with 2 hours, but normally when you have movies that involve big licenses and stuff like that, you're kind of better off having a little bit more time just to flesh out some other things. Because you usually have a bunch of characters going all over the place. So that's just me personally, but stop purposely. Like, if the movie is legit 2 hours, that's fine, I get it. But stop purposely cutting the movie out just to make it under there. I know obviously Superman was longer, but I still argue that movie could have used some more time too. But for the other two examples, yeah, just stop doing that. Like, if it's legitimately a little bit longer, I mean, we're not talking about a 3 hour movie here. Just like somewhere around, 2:15, 2:30, and those movies all would have been so much better. That little bit of time could have gone a long way. But hopefully I made those points clear. But I just ultimately want to say that, as I said, I enjoyed the Fantastic Four movie. I highly recommend it. By far the best Fantastic Four movie. And yes, we actually had a month where we had a great DC movie and a great Marvel movie released at the same time. It's been a long time since we had that. But nonetheless, as I always like to say, that is my opinion. I want to hear your guys' opinion. Do you agree with my settlements that you feel like movies nowadays need to stop being cut to be shorter, and that they need to be let them to be a lot longer than they should have been, and have that extra added time to flesh out things? Or maybe you're someone just like, you know what, I don't care, get me out of the theater immediately, I don't want to take a chance of it being longer. Let me know down in the comment section down below. But thank you very much for watching. Hopefully you guys did enjoy this video, and hopefully I see you guys back in the next one. Thanks, and I'll see you all later. Peace.